August 20, 1966. Two dead men lay on a hill above Rio, wearing suits, raincoats, and strange lead masks over their eyes. There were no obvious wounds, no sign of robbery, and no clear reason why either man had climbed that hill to die. In one pocket, police found a note describing capsules, a signal, metal protection, and masks if the deaths followed instructions. That was the terrifying part. The scene looked less like a crime discovered late and more like a plan completed exactly as intended. The two men were Miguel José Viana and Manoel Pereira da Cruz, electronics technicians from Campos in the Brazilian countryside. They were not criminals or drifters. They repaired radios, worked ordinary jobs, and shared a serious interest in unusual scientific experiments. Friends later said both men were fascinated by psychic communication, strange signals, and the possibility of contacting forces beyond normal reality. On August 17, they told their families they were traveling for business, supposedly to buy materials for work in Niterói. They carried a considerable amount of cash, enough for supplies, transport, food, and whatever else their private plan required. At one store, Manoel bought a raincoat, even though the weather was warm and dry enough to make that purchase feel suspicious. Witnesses who saw them later said the pair seemed calm, focused, and strangely purposeful, as if following a sequence already discussed. Their trail eventually led toward Morro do Vintém, a hill already linked in local rumor to unexplained lights in the sky. The next day, both men were found lying side by side on the hillside grass, carefully positioned and eerily undisturbed. A local boy flying a kite noticed the bodies from a distance, but adults hesitated before climbing the isolated slope. When police finally reached the site, they found money, receipts, notebooks, a water bottle, a towel, and the homemade lead masks. The masks were simple but unsettling, cut from sheets of lead and shaped to cover only the eyes, like crude protective goggles. Nothing had been stolen. The money was still there. So whatever happened, greed did not appear to be the motive. The handwritten note became the case's most famous clue because it sounded like instructions taken from the middle of a ritual. It mentioned taking capsules, waiting for a signal, protecting metals, and finally putting on the masks at the right moment. That wording pushed police toward the men's private beliefs, especially reports that they had joined spiritualist and paranormal circles. Investigators heard that the pair had experimented with homemade electronics while trying to contact spirits or other non-human intelligences. Some thought they were attempting a psychic experiment. Others believed they expected a UFO, a vision, or some supernatural encounter. But the investigation suffered from one devastating problem: the bodies were discovered too late to preserve critical forensic evidence. Autopsy results never established a certain cause of death. Poisoning was suspected, but no conclusive toxicological answer was secured. Without a reliable cause of death, every theory remained a live accidental overdose, ritual failure, fraud, murder, or sheer catastrophic miscalculation. The UFO angle grew after locals described bright lights above the hill around the same time the men supposedly died there. That detail helped transform the story into legend, but witness memory becomes dangerously unreliable once fear and headlines take over. What remained real were the bodies, the note, the receipts, the lead masks, and the missing explanation connecting them together. Why buy a raincoat on a warm day? Why keep the note? Why lie down side by side instead of seeking help? And what exactly did they think was going to happen after the capsules, the signal, and those blank metal masks covered their eyes? That is why the lead masks case still feels disturbing today. Not because it proves something supernatural, but because it almost does. Some mysteries frighten us with violence. This one frightens us with intention because two men climbed that hill expecting something specific. Whatever they were waiting for never told the rest of the world how the story was supposed to end.